Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So I've been putting together this Facebreaker build over the last couple days. In between Shield Crush, I'm coming back to Shield Crush because this build is just something that I wanted to try. So basically, the idea behind this build was to run Crushing Fist and basically set this up on a Facebreaker configuration with the Surrender, and we use Abyssus, which is actually the Achilles heel of this build. And the way that Facebreakers works is you have to use Ridgewald's Curse and a bunch of other different things to get it to work properly. And so you use Facebreaker, Abyssus, and it's based on the adds 40 to 60 physical damage to attacks. That gets multiplied by the 800% more physical damage with unarmed melee attacks. And then that then is modified by claw modifiers, which this basically applies claw modifiers to unarmed attack damage with melee skills. And yeah, so basically all of this culminates into a massive amount of DPS. Now, where this build would be really good right now, positioned, would not be running Crushing Fist, because Crushing Fist is one of the jankiest skills I think I've ever played in Path of Exile. There's like an animation problem where like you get caught on stuff, and I'll show you right now, in fact. But let's just load up a map, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So let's run just an Alkengo Underground River, right? And I'm broke at the moment too, which means I can't really put a lot of currency into this. Now, the big pluses of this skill is absolutely enormous damage scaling, right? It's huge. The other big plus is obviously you have hits cannot be evaded, so you don't need to stack any accuracy on this, which means maps like this don't really have any issues. But the problem lies within the defense on the build. So max block is not the most reliable defense strategy, and I think I've got it down to where it sort of works. And the way that the defense works is we run Versatile Combatant, right, which is the tree point down here, and we get to like 68 and 67%, which if we have a look at the POB, right, that accumulates to around about 90 and 89% block rate, right, which is pretty high, right? That's not a small amount of block, it's defensive. The problem is when the block breaks, and it happens totally unreliably, like it's totally unstable. So the way that I sort of got around that a little bit is to then run Petrified Blood, and then the Petrified Blood defers the damage over time with Vitality applied to that, which is these setups in here. And basically it regenerates. Now, that fixes a lot of the issues, but not all of the issues. The other big point is I'm having issues trying to scale damage, but I'm only level 80, right? I'm really pushing this. I'm doing T16s at level 80 and 410 depth and delve, and I'll put all this video footage at the very end, because I wanted to sort of show this build as it is, sort of with nothing pretty in it. Just drop the audio there. All right, so basically, this is a T16 Underground River map, and I'll give you a bit of an idea. Now, elemental damage is problematic, but we'll fix that with Divine Shield. But the other big issue is you're totally reliant on, that's just my GPU having issues, you're totally reliant on getting hit. Now, AoE-wise is fantastic, right? And it looks really cool when it works. So here, right? So see this problem here? I'm hitting the button, and it's like a topographic error with the skill. So basically, it like, if it's got like an elevation on the map topology or something like that, it doesn't actually hit. And if that didn't happen, the skill would actually work okay. So now we do the hit. It's big damage, right? Keep upgrading. I've sort of been playing around with this a lot, and we're using the Ascendancy on the Gladiator that basically allows you to have a second double fist, if you want to call it that. So like, it's got okay clear. It's relatively tanky considering I'm 10 points under what I should be right now. And it has absolutely disgusting levels of AoE. So it looks really cool. We sort of get around Chaos Res, where Reses are sort of fixed by running blasts and whatnot. So there's a bit of jerry-rigging in the build that needs to be teased out. But, like, for the most it works. It's when it doesn't work, that's when the problems kick in. But we'll finish this map so you get a bit of an idea of what it looks like, and I'll show you on the boss. So Petrified Blood really fixed a lot of my issues, which is really funny. So the other thing is, like, clear speed, right? You're relying on basically, like, charging the enemy. Ground dot's another big problem for the build. So we'll just skip that for now. The other thing is there are some enemies that you just simply can't evade, and they are highly problematic for this build because we're almost solely relying on the block. Alright, so here's the boss. Let's drop a portal down. So, like, it's not horrible. And, like, we have a long way to go with damage, right? We're like 15 points under the standard average. But the nullification of the skill when, like, you get hit and it just sort of does nothing, that's problematic. There we go. So, like, it's not the worst. It's a hard one because it's not the worst build that I've ever played, as you can see there. But it's also not the best build that I've ever played. But anyway, I'll give you a run through of the breakdown of the gearing and everything. Right now, I can't recommend this build. I'll give you all the POBs and everything. It needs a bit of work and I need to refine it, but I need to go back with my Shield Crush character and do a bit of delving and get some currency in the bank because I'm really broke because I don't usually play 2 characters in the first league, but I really wanted to test this. If this was running like Ground Slam or Earth Shatter of Ground Breaking or whatever it is, this would be really strong and it would be really good and consistent. Like, defensively, your offense would be able to offset a lot of the problems with your defense, so you wouldn't be sort of hampered too much. And there's a potential for this to get up into the 20 millions, and I'll give you the projected POB, which is really loosey-goosey right now. It needs a lot of work, but for the most, Facebreakers works. You know, spell suppression would definitely help this build a lot, but again, we come back to the point that we need the Abyssus to be able to do any meaningful sort of damage. Without it, we're basically neutering this build. But yeah, anyway, let's talk about the gear setups and everything. And yeah. Okay, so gearing on the build, obviously Abyssus. This synergizes with Facebreaker with this 40 to 60 physical damage to attacks. But the downside is 49% increased physical damage taken, which is the biggest problem with this build. If your attack block breaks and an attack gets through, you're going to feel it and you're going to get instantly clipped because our health pool is so small. Second to that, we need Ridgewald's Curse. I haven't done anything with this at this stage. Sorry, I'll just go into D&D mode. And then I also have the Surrender. Now, the big thing about the Surrender is 386 life when you block, and because we're basically 90% block, we're always blocking. And so the idea behind the defensive layering is the Petrified Blood decreases the damage and defers it enough so that the block can kick in and kick it back up. And I'll explain the dual setups too, because they also assist with remediating health, which is why this build can sort of take a lot of hits before it crumbles. But then we have Fourth Vow, which I'm not convinced this is the best chess piece at this stage, but I've got a 6-link one, so why not? Rings are just like any old rings to get resistances up, and that's another big problem with the build because we're socket poor and we're relying on key uniques that don't have resistances. Resistance balancing is really freaking hard. And then obviously we use Facebreakers. I got an 800% roll for really cheap. I'm not sure what these are worth because my bloody Path of Exile thingo is not working at the moment. Now, on the belt, I did get this belt, and I did craft it, and it's an Elder belt, and it did have melee hits, which stun have 8% chance to fortify, so I do get fortify pretty easily. And then boots is any old all-resist boots and whatnot, but no life rolls and stuff like that, so it's not ideal. Flasks are basically just scratched together with the currency I've had left, and as I said, I got to get back into the SC build and get some currency, and that's basically it for the gearing. Okay, so for gem setups in the helm, I've got Vitality, Arrogance, Clarity, and Blood and Sand. That gets me to about 50% reserved, or just close to. And you need that for Petrified Blood. Then I have Petrified Blood, War Banner, and Purity of Elements. Then in my chest, I have Crushing Fist, Expert Retaliation, which gives me the cooldown recovery. And then I've got Impale, Brutality, Pulverize, and Fist of War, because this is a slam skill, so it synergizes. And then beyond that, I've got in my gloves Shield Charge with faster attacks, Assassin's Mark, and Mark on hit to get my crit up. And then I've got Molten Shell, Automation, Life Tap, and more duration to keep my Molten Shell going. Though I'm not convinced that this is the best use. Maybe some War Cries would be good here, but that's it for the gem setups. For the POB, basically we go down to Art of the Gladiator, we come back down, and this isn't necessarily the most efficient way to do this. We could probably, no, we can't even, yeah, we can lose that point there. We're still optimizing a lot, so I'm still sort of figuring it out. And then so we can ditch this and this as well. So we've got 3 points spare. So basically we go down to Defiance, and then we need to come down and grab the Prepared Response nodes. This means retaliations become useful for a longer period of time, so they don't dissipate. And then I've got the 20% armor for each different retaliation use. We're only going to have that 120% buff. Then we come down and grab the Impale nodes, where we can chuck in, or we might actually go more. Actually, we might go that there. And then we need the proficiency and the hard knocks nodes, and we go up into solar steel. Then we come down and we grab the bastion breaker nodes and 10% more physical damage, and the crit dismembering nodes and critical mastery here. Then down into brutal skewering, into versatile combatant, and into golem's blood, and we pick up all the Tetsudo and retaliation nodes here with 2% increased damage per 75 armor on the shield, and up into this socket here. Now we use Blood Notch and we use Immutable Force. We don't have stun immunity. The reason for that is that allows me to basically block more. So we have a ton of block recovery on this build, like 684% block recovery. And the idea is the more block recovery, the more your block is going to go off, so you can't get overcrowded by more offensive or more hits coming in. I'm not entirely sure that works perfectly, but so far it sort of works. I'm able to do like 400 depth delve, and the only problem I really have is against ground dot. Now we come through here and we pick up all these retaliation nodes to get cooldown, recovery, and whatnot, and then 40% reduced cost of retaliation, which is 30 mana and 15 life, which is tenable for this build. Then we come up, we get Bloodless, up to As the Mountain. This gives us max attack block, and we also want max spell block to max out our spell block up to our 89% lucky block sort of status. Then we go Inexonerable, and then we go up to Aggressive Bastion, taking more block nodes, up to Indiscriminate Revenge. This gives us like 60% increased AoE, which is really good for the slam skill. And then up to Juggernaut. Then we grab our Immutable Force. I don't have a great roll. These are like 1 to 2 div right now. But yeah, if you can get one that's like close to 1,000, that's the best roll you can get. That would probably help. Up to Barbarism, and we grab the disemboweling nodes with the crit mastery, 150% increased critical strike chance against enemies that are on full life. And that means, like, this build's designed to be a one-shot build. It's not designed to be a two-shot build. So yeah, that's going to help you in your endeavors. And we could probably use this as well, because we have endurance charges off of the back of Inexonerable being in the build. So we're always generating endurance charges. So that's only going to give us more elemental damage reduction and more life regeneration at the end of the day. Now, as far as the ascendancy goes, we're going to go up to Determined Savior, More Than Skill. Then we go into Measured Retaliation to get our double shot retaliation. And then into War of Attrition, which is our ramp up to 100%. If we're in the presence of the enemy, which is pretty significant if the fight drags out for a long time. The idea behind this build is to make a build that can basically sustain long endured fights, though I'm not entirely sure it's working at this stage the way that I expected it to work, but still we just got to keep progressing the build to get there. Okay, so as far as the POB goes, right, I've got the configurations here. Basically, it's predicated on standing still. We have power charges from Assassin's Mark, endurance charges from our Inexonerable. Inexonerable? Yep, Inexonerable. And then basically, we have Fortified based on the belt. 30 Rage seems to generate from somewhere in the tree. I'm not entirely sure. Have we been hit recently? Yes. And we block recently? More than often, yes. Is the enemy on full life? Yes, because that's our crit bonus. It's a one-hit build. And like 30 seconds in the enemy's presence, maybe like 15. Gets us to about 2 point... And Guardian Pinnacle, no other changes in Bloodstance. Gets us to about 2.1 mil DPS. effective hit pool infinite. It's not infinite. POB breaks when you basically try and do like block builds and stuff like that. So if we actually tick it down, it's like 337,000. But in that one rare occasion, you will die to a one hit, right? And it's just the way that max block works, and you need to basically mitigate that. So my solution around that right now, to a degree, is to stack up a ton of armor and continue to progress Petrified Blood. And the other thing would be Fourth Vow and then run Divine Flesh. We'll deal with all the elementals, so basically stack up Chaos Resistances and see how we go running that gauntlet. I'm not too sure how this will look in like pure endgame. The DPS is a bit lackluster as well. It's only like 2.1 million. Some might believe that's a lot. I don't think it's enough. We still need to do a lot with the boots. Like we need brittle on the boots and things like that. Like we get 27,000 armor without determination, so we've done pretty well so far. But there's a lot of things I don't like about the build just yet, and I'm not happy to turn around and basically be like, oh, this build's great, yada, yada, yada. I don't think it's great right now. I think it needs a lot of work. And actually, this is an old setup of the POB, so I'll put the new setup of the POB in the description below with all the changes with Petrified Blood and everything. But yeah, that's basically it for the build. Overall, I don't recommend playing this. It's really janky at this stage. Let me figure it out further, but we're a few weeks away from me probably doing that effectively. I'm going to cycle back to my Shield Crush build, and later today you'll see an update 4 for that. We're going to progress that to like crazy level endgame. But yeah, if you like videos like this, trying out experimental builds and things like that, like it is fun. It's crazy fun. To level, it was amazing. Like it was a crazy good build. And we can turn it into a slam build if we want to be really boring, but I want to keep it interesting. But yeah, if you like this type of video, don't forget to like and sub to the channel, and don't forget to go over and check out the Twitch. But also, I'll put some footage at the end of this video ream as well, and you can see some of the gameplay of mapping and stuff like that. It's a fun build. It's just like a really interesting build. If you're not taking the game too seriously, it's a bit of a meme build. It's probably not going to be a Titan killer, but that being said, with enough investment, anything can be a Titan killer. So maybe eventually, if I want to sink the divs into it. Anyway, I'll see you guys later and enjoy the footage.